I don't get it, but...
Well, that's because Pelipper's not a duck. It's
Yeah.
a pelican, is it not?
So we've got Pelipper Golduck. It's a rain core. Golduck oftentimes carries that Watt Area MC almost all the time off of Hydro Pump. It gets a good, strong hit in, and then it basically does nothing else. But we have Garchomp, Celesteela, Marowak, which is a very solid core that people were playing early in the season. The three of those Pokemon complement each other very well. And we're seeing Xurkitree, which is a Pokemon that fell off rather quickly. It provides a lot of offense if you need electric attacks. Otherwise, you should probably play a different Pokemon. So it's interesting to see this Xurkitree next to Marowak, considering the Marowak can pull those electric type moves away from its target, but if you're running Discharge, it's not as much of an issue.
He definitely has options on his team for discharging next to, of course, not just the Marowak, the Garchomp as well. Outside of that, though, does not want to be using it next to a Pelipper, Golduck, or Celesteela.
Oh, absolutely
not
not.
ideal. So I think careful positioning from Mike Shaw here will basically allow more to come out of his team. You know, he's not going to have just discharge, but that Xurkitree I think is going to be very interesting. I do definitely like Ryan's team again. For those of you who are just joining us, it's the Hariyama, Porygon 2, Araquanid, Drampa, Braviary, and Mimikyu. So definitely options as well to control the speed. We didn't see it in the previous game. Of course, that was a bit one-sided, to say the least. But he definitely has a Trick Room option. So if he can pull that out, maybe slow down the play a little bit and cause problems. Golduck will be looking for those Swift Swims. We see some of these other Pokemon sometimes boosted up in speed a bit. Ryan definitely changing up his leads from what we saw in the last round. Mike's going to throw out his as well. That's going to be the Xurkitree and the Marowak. And on Ryan's side of the field, it's going to be the Porygon and the Drampa. So Porygon getting the correct download boost. May not want to use it immediately. And we are going to see Drampa showing the Cloud 9 ability, so that could be really, really important in this matchup, of course. If the rain becomes an issue or something that he definitely struggles to deal with, it's going to be there to help prevent that. But, of course, it's not on the field right now, so it's kind of wasted.
It gives away that the Drampa isn't carrying that Berserk, which means Mike is free to whittle it down without making it too much of a threat.
Or Sap Sipper, don't forget Sap Sipper.
Or Sap Sipper, yeah. I think Ryan is most likely going to set up Trick Room to control that Xurkitree and control the Marowak a little bit and protect with his Drampa. If he gets Drampa in Trick Room, it puts out a lot of damage, and here we're just going to see Discharge.
Yeah, we're going to start with the Xurkitree moving first, throwing out that Discharge, obviously not going to damage the Marowak, going to do not too much damage to either of the Pokemon on Ryan's side of the field, but it is going to catch a paralysis on the Drampa. Marowak following up with a big Flare Blitz. It's going to be targeting down the Porygon, trying to get rid of it. Unfortunately, not going to get the knockout. Going to take a good chunk of recoil here. Drampa free to retaliate with a Draco Meteor, not caught by that paralysis. Is going to target down that Xurkitree, so probably a lot of damage. Xurkitree nice and frail and a clean one-hit knockout. Drampa's special attack, of course, falling as a result of that. But Porygon 2 remaining on the field will be moving last, and it's going to be setting up that Trick Room. So Drampa likely not able to capitalize the next turn with the drop in special attack, but he removes a big threat. And Drampa, paralyzed, flourishing under Trick Room.
And the Porygon 2, though, is in a very precarious position. It's not going to threaten that Marowak if it's not carrying Shadow Ball, and it almost has to recover. And here we're going to see Celesteela coming in on that -2 Drampa and the Porygon, and I think Celesteela is in a very good position to start doing Celesteela things. Of course, we've seen Celesteela likes to set up Leech Seed, it likes to set up substitutes.
No, I'm not sure what's quite going on there, but of course... Alright. So, I think Celesteela's going to be doing alright here. Definitely something it can do, but it's going to be playing a slow game for sure, whatever it decides to do. Sorry, just updating our overlay as I've just been informed. It is outdated. There it is. It's correct again. So we're going to see the Drampa switch out, of course, that special attack drop from the Draco Meteor, not the best thing in the world. Marowak going for the Shadow Bone into the Porygon 2, maybe expecting a switch there. Porygon 2 now free to recover, going to be gathering up a good amount of its health back, and Celesteela just throwing out that Leech Seed on the Porygon 2, so at least there's some health on it now. To sap with the Leech Seed. I think there we just see Mike just trying to cover his options, really. If something switches, it gets caught by Shadow Bone. If it doesn't switch, then of course it does get caught by the Leech Seed.
We did catch an interesting bit of information, though. the Marowak moves before Porygon, and it missed its chance to knock it out. The Porygon got that recover, which normally you'd expect it to go first and recover, but it wasn't punished, and he's in a good position now.
Yeah, Marowak playing a bit safer this turn, just protecting, doesn't want to get caught by this knockoff from the Hariyama, so that's going into the protect. Porygon 2 though, taking its time, just going to recover up once more, going to bring it back to full health, and Celesteela getting its chance to throw out a second Leech Seed, so a lot of recovery in between those turns is definitely going to help out.
I think Celesteela is in a good position to again do Celesteela things. One Leech Seed down, probably see us. Oh, 2 Leech Seeds down.
Yeah.
We'll probably see a substitute coming out, but that Marowak is directly threatened by a knockoff from this burned Hariyama.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem, and Hariyama's going to get whittled down fairly quickly, I think. Obviously, the Leech Seed and the burn between turns is going to make it suffer. It's not going to be around for much longer, of course. It's usually banking on just the burn, but the Leech Seed puts a bit more of a pressure timer on it there, so a little bit hard of Hariyama. Going to need to start doing something. Obviously, a knockoff would be nice, but I think Mike clever enough to keep that Marowak safe, seeing just how important it is. Right, we're going to see the turn just start. They've locked in the moves. That Marowak is going to be leaving the field, of course. Doesn't want to be getting caught by anything. Garchomp coming in, so if knockoff goes there, it gets to figure out the item. It is going to be the knockoff onto the Garchomp. Going to do good damage, about half of its health there. Rough Skin getting some more chip damage down onto it and showing the Assault Vest on the Garchomp. Porygon 2 free to Thunderbolt. Must have been calling that Marowak switch very wisely. Catches the Celesteela and does a little over half to it actually, so very good capitalizing on that predicted switch. A Heavy Slam going into the Hariyama though, not doing too much but just continually wearing it down. Celesteela though, now going to get some recovery between the turns. It's going to get 2 helpings of Leech Seed and its leftovers, so going to be nice and healthy again at the end of this sequence.
And Ryan's in a very strong position here. Both of his Pokemon are going to move first, and we're going to see this Garchomp who can't protect. The Assault Vest was knocked off, so Hariyama is free to pick up a KO on that Garchomp, and Porygon can just fire off another Thunderbolt in that Celesteela. That being said, Marowak could switch back in to punish that, but I find it unlikely considering these knockoffs do a lot of damage.
Yeah, these knockoffs have been doing really significant damage. Of course, not going to be doing as much this next turn because there is no item to knock off, but he may be able to knock that leftovers off the Celesteela, which may help as we move towards the late game here. Definitely something to think about. I think that damage calculation is going to be quite important here. Obviously, Hariyama, though, likely going to get knocked out if it goes for something on the Garchomp. It's going to get caught by the Rough Skin, then the Burn, then the Leech Seed. We do see, though, the Garchomp leaving the field. Marowak coming in, so if he's gone for that knockoff, it is going to be a troublesome time for Mike here. Celesteela protecting, looking to get a little more recovery between the turns. And knockoff does come out from that Hariyama. Going to hit the Marowak and take the knockout there, so another great read on what's coming in. He caught it the last time with the Marowak leaving, and he caught the Marowak on the way back out. So we are going to see another Thunderbolt towards that Celesteela, of course, it protecting. Looks like it might get all the way back up to full health as well.
I think what Ryan did there was he knockoff Ice Beamed into the Garchomp slot. If Garchomp stays in, it gets picked up by the Ice Beam. If Marowak comes in, it gets knocked out by the knockoff. I think Mike believed that he was going to close combat and Thunderbolt that turn, and he got hard punished for what looks like a misprediction.
Yeah, I think bringing the Marowak in was definitely a little bit risky. We do see the Trick Room end though, so going to be in a slightly better position if you're Mike, but you are still down in Pokemon, of course, and you do have the opportunity, if you're Ryan here, to set the Trick Room back up with the Porygon. Hariyama just clinging on through all of that. Obviously, it didn't get the Rough Skin damage, which it would have needed from attacking the Garchomp, so very smart predictions on 2 turns on the presence of the Marowak. Obviously, the Garchomp coming back out with about 50% of its health is going to be the first thing to move, though. We know it doesn't have a Z move. We saw the Assault Vest get knocked off. And I think it's going to be a lot of pressure to get rid of the Porygon, of course. If it has Ice Beam, it's going to be in a good position. And if he knocks out the Hariyama as well, then he doesn't have one more Leech Seed, which then makes Celesteela even harder to keep around. Now we're going to see Garchomp, though, just go for it. Go for the Earthquake, of course, free to do so next to Celesteela. I think the important thing here is the damage done to Porygon. It's not very much from the Earthquake, but whatever Celesteela follows up with is going to be crucial here. It goes for the Heavy Slam, obviously going to be doing a lot of damage here. Going to target down the Porygon, not enough, though, and Porygon 2 just free to Ice Beam that Garchomp, no Assault Vest to save it, and that's a knockout on the Garchomp. So now Celesteela, with just 1 Leech Seed down, is going to have to face down the other 2 Pokemon on Ryan's team here.
That being said, I don't believe that Ryan has any solid answer to Celesteela outside of a +1 Porygon, but he could bring a Rockwanid. Drampa often carry fire-type attacks, so he could be in a decent position here.
No, we are going to see the Araquanid as the one Pokemon we haven't seen yet, and it is the Drampa coming back in after that special attack drop, so it's going to be doing more damage than it would if it had just stuck around. Of course, Drampa being paralyzed is going to be a bit of a problem if it gets caught by multiple paralyses, but we are going to see Araquanid pretty much able to do something. I think Celesteela, if it wants to win this one out, might have to be setting up some Leech Seeds. We are going to see the Protect coming from Celesteela. Could be big depending on what Araquanid decides to do, which is going to be this Z move. It's going to be the Waterium Z. Going to be bringing Hydro Vortex there to augment Liquidation, but it is going into a Protect.
I think this is a smart Protect by Mike Shaw. He doesn't have any Leech Seeds, but he will be able to cut that Hydro Vortex damage down to a quarter and use his leftovers to kind of soak up some of that.
And they're very, very smart Protect there. Won't do much damage at all. It does about 20%, so better than nothing, of course, going through that Protect. But Drampa revealing it has Flamethrower, so that's going to be doing some solid damage. Definitely gives Mike a little indication on what he needs to focus down between these turns. The Drampa, probably the threat here. That's what he's going to have to go for. But then he's free to let Araquanid throw out Liquidation, maybe get those stat drops.
And we're going to see a Leech Seed come out from the Celesteela. I think Substitute may have been stronger, but we're going to see a Liquidation just fire into that Celesteela unprotected and a Flamethrower double in, and that should pick up the knockout.
No, we do see, of course, Mike realizing the way that most people play Celesteela is to try and set up those Leech Seeds, and I think he kind of knew just throughout the Leech Seed, and he gets caught, but Liquidation doing a lot of damage there. Yeah. Shows that Araquanid is definitely a solid answer there. So Ryan, taking game one is going to be... I feel pretty confident going in. We didn't see the rain mode come out from Mike between these in this game. I think he's a little bit scared of what might happen. So definitely something for him to think about. If he wants to change it up, does Ryan have the answer? Of course, the rain mode not doing so well under Trick Room. Definitely something to think about between games.
Rain really does not want to face off against a Araquanid. A Araquanid can take its strongest asset and turn it into damage that will take one-hit knockouts on your team.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that they need to be wary of. That Protect was nice, showing that Mike, was very wary of it. Definitely predicting the Z Crystal there on the Araquanid, but Ryan just had the damage anyway. Celesteela wasn't in a good enough position to see out the game.
Absolutely. Mike had the presence of mind to play around potential threats that he had not seen, but Ryan had played himself into a position that game that was unlosable.
Yeah, he really set up a win condition early on. Just another quick rundown of the teams. Ryan is on the bottom of your screen. He will be running the Hariyama Porygon 2, Araquanid, Drampa, Braviary, and Mimikyu, with Michael Shaw's team on the top. On the right on this screen is the Pelipper, the Golduck, the Garchomp, the Celesteela, Marowak, and Xurkitree.
I would not be surprised to see Xurkitree either staying at home or staying in back this game. It got off a discharge early, which paralyzed the Drampa, did some decent damage to Porygon, and then it got KO'd, and we did not see it do anything.
It was really kind of there. I mean, if he leaves it at home, then he's kind of stuck bringing just one of that Rain duo, and you know that when you pick that, you're committed to the pair of them, so it makes it a little bit trickier in Team Preview. Obviously, it would be really nice to bring that, but I feel he's definitely scared of it. That's something that won't be so much fun for him to play, so... Tough decisions to be made at Team Preview. I think Ryan won the game at Team Preview. He did it in his top 4 match, and he definitely did it here. So if he can just keep up that momentum, he should be in a really good position to keep on going and win this mid-season showdown. The leads are going to come out. It's going to be the same lead from Ryan. That was the Drampa and the Porygon 2, so maybe looking again for that Trick Room. And Mike did switch it up and did bring the Rain mode.
I think it's a smart adaptation by Mike. The Drampa Porygon did not pose any immediate threat to a Rain combination, and with a Hydro Vortex from Golduck and a double in from Pelipper, you might be able to take down that Porygon 2 before it can set up Trick Room.
Now the problem is though, if he goes and doubles into the Porygon 2, Drampa is free to throw out some really large attacks. That's definitely the concern here, and I think it's a tough decision on which one do you want to leave. If you leave Drampa, of course, it's not going to be taking too much damage from something like water type attacks, but outside of that, you can't really just go hard on the Drampa and leave Porygon, and conversely, you can't go hard on the Porygon and leave Drampa, so its focus definitely split here.
At the same time, Drampa has the option to protect, whereas most Porygon 2 do not. So you have almost guaranteed free damage on the Porygon, whereas it's not necessarily guaranteed on the Drampa. But again, that Drampa's damage output is incredible.
Drampa playing it safe this turn though, going for the protect, doesn't want to get caught by anything silly. Golduck revealing it has the Ice Beam, so that's going to be a problem. Hurricane following up from the Pelipper. It's going to target down the Porygon too, not do too much damage, no confusion though, and Porygon free to set up the Trick Room, so Drampa now in a really good position to follow up the next turn and basically throw out, of course, a big Draco Meteor.
We've seen Draco Meteor. We know Drampa often carry Energy Ball. Some carry Hyper Voice. This one carries Flamethrower. So we could see a Draco Meteor into that Pelipper. We could see an Energy Ball into the Golduck. Drampa kind of has its pick of the litter as to what it wants to remove from this game.
No, it's not going to be the Golduck. Mike withdrawing that Golduck from the field and showing that Celesteela immediately. So maybe trying to get it set up again and slow this game down. Energy Ball is going to go towards that Celesteela slot. So a good switch there from Mike on the defensive. It's going to show the Life Orb as its item. Porygon 2 though following up with an Ice Beam into the Pelipper, maybe showing it doesn't carry that Thunderbolt that some have. And Pelipper now retaliating again with the Hurricane. Going to do big damage to that Drampa with a critical hit, but not get the confusion, so that's quite important.
No, we saw the Thunderbolt from Ryan's Porygon 2 in Game 1. I think he was scared of the Marowak switching in to take a Thunderbolt. We saw that Mike was not unwilling to switch his Marowak in, even into threats.
No, I think that's definitely something to be scared of, but obviously he switched 2 Pokemon between games, or between rounds rather, so Ryan may have to just take a gamble and hope that it isn't there at all. That's definitely something he has to think about now. But there are obviously other ways to remove the Pelipper. Another Ice Beam would do it, but now there's definitely a bit of pressure to try and get some damage down on the Celesteela before it sets up all the Leech Seeds again.
Especially Celesteela in rain, the Drampa cannot threaten that massive amount of damage with its Flamethrower again. So I think we'll probably see Porygon 2 go on the offensive against that Celesteela, and maybe Drampa take out that Pelipper.
Well, Celesteela leaving the field, Xurkitree coming in, so no Marowak this game. Very good information for Ryan. That Xurkitree is going to be doing some damage if it gets to attack. It's going to be caught by a Flamethrower on the switch in, doing large amounts of damage. Drampa's Life Orb taking it close to falling. Ice Beam though from the Porygon into that Pelipper means there's no damage coming out from Mike's side of the field this turn, and he's just getting pushed around, I think, by the offensive presence of Ryan.
I think Mike really decided that he needed to preserve Celesteela, and he switched out Xurkitree, but even in the Cloud9.
Yeah, Cloud9, obviously, I was thinking Cloud9 isn't going to be protecting the Celesteela as much, so Drampa now free to put down a lot of pressure. We did see in Game 1 as well that Xurkitree moving very, very quickly in the turn could be an indication of the item, and it just kind of shows, I think, a weakness this team has to the Trick Room. That's definitely something that a lot of players are missing, I think, in Team Preview, knowing, of course, now that there is no Marowak, that Porygon 2 just free to throw out Thunderbolts when it wants. Celesteela doesn't want to take it though, going to be caught by the Protect. Draco Meteor going into the Xurkitree but missing, so that could be really big here. We are going to see the Celesteela eat the Thunderbolt with the Protect, of course, and the Discharge from the Xurkitree, which is going to target down both Pokemon. Going to take the knockout on Drampa and do a really good amount of damage to Porygon and get some paralysis there, so that could be really big. Interesting by Ryan on his move selection with that Drampa.
He saw that the Flamethrower did over 50% on the switch. Another Flamethrower would have sealed up that KO.
I think maybe he was a little bit concerned about the Golduck switch in, something to worry about, but Golduck going to be suffering if it comes in after this rain is gone, of course. It's not doing too hot. Now that Cloud9 is gone as well, the power of the rain is back. Hariyama's going to struggle a little bit here. Porygon 2 though is still able to do good work against Celesteela, and I think Hariyama has enough in the gas tank to do some damage to the Xurkitree, but definitely needs to capitalize, of course, before we see the Trick Room run out, rather.
We'll probably see Ryan try to preserve this Trick Room, put it back up. Hariyama probably going to utilize that Fake Out, keep Xurkitree from using its blistering speed to probably put on some big damage.
Yeah, Xurkitree leaving the field now though, doesn't want to do anything. Maybe an indication of the move it was locked into. Probably scouting out the Choice Scarf. Hariyama throwing down the Fake Out. It's going to target down the Golduck, do some good damage. Celesteela following up, of course, with the Heavy Slam. Going to target down that Porygon again. Didn't do enough last time, but this time it scores a crit from the same amount of health. That's going to knock out the Porygon and give Celesteela that Beast Boost in the Special Defense. So the answers that Ryan has better be attacking physically.
Without Porygon, without Drampa, Ryan needs to have a Rockwanid, and here we see a Rockwanid come out.
No, he's bought the same for as the previous game. Obviously very smart. Going to be a little bit more wary this time of that Protect. We saw the Protect to eat up, of course, the Hydro Vortex from the Araquanid, so going to be a little bit more careful. I think the mind game here comes, you know, if Ryan just wants to lock in that Hydro Vortex, but it's going to be a Protect from the Celesteela. Big question is, did Ryan go for it on that slot? Golduck throwing out the Encore, so catching Hariyama slightly with his pants down a little bit. Going to be locking it into Fake Out for the foreseeable future. Going to fail, of course. Liquidation, though, going into that Golduck is going to be doing a decent amount of damage with a not very effective hit, and it is, of course, going to lower the defense as well.
No, but of course, now Ryan has effectively one Pokemon, and trying to deal with a Golduck and the Celesteela at the same time is going to be a daunting task.
Yeah, there's no way to switch out either, so this Hariyama is a sitting duck. I know that's a cliche one on the stream.
3 ducks in this game.
Well, allegedly so. One's a pelican. But by the by, Hariyama now completely trapped, so the power of Golduck showing it can do more than the Hydro Vortex that you said at the beginning of the game. It's not just a Hydro Vortex machine, it's Hydro Vortex and Encore machine. We are going to see the Fake Out fail, and this time we're going to see a big Z move on that Golduck. Is going to be the Waterium Z, is of course going to be Hydro Vortex, and do you think it's enough to knock out Araquanid?
I do not. Not without Rain. The resistance could prove too much, but we're going to see it go into Hariyama instead.
Yeah, interesting targeting, of course. Hariyama not a threat, while the Fake Out is being locked into. Hariyama is not going to get knocked out by it, though. Very smart Leech Seed from that Celesteela. Following up, we are going to see the Z move in retaliation from Ryan. It's coming off that Araquanid, so a lot riding on this Araquanid right now. It's going to be the big Hydro Vortex, and do you think he'll have targeted the right thing?
I think he's targeting the Celesteela here.
I think that's definitely the correct play. It is, of course, the Celesteela. Going to be taking some really significant damage. It would have helped if the rain was up. Not enough for the knockout, though, just falling a little bit short. And now some time maybe to get some leftovers recovery, but it's not going to be leftovers and Leech Seed, which means Celesteela needs a little bit more. Hariyama clinging on, one more turn left on the field, though.
I think it's unlikely that we see that Hariyama get to move. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Celesteela go for an attack here and just double into the Araquanid.
Well, that's a little interesting thing. I thought it does of course do more damage to the Hariyama, but with it not a threat at all, you'd think the Araquanid would just be the one they want to get rid of. So, curious play, of course. Maybe concerned about the ending of Encore from Hariyama, trying to get rid of it before that. But we are going to see Hariyama, again, try and fail its Fake Out. Golduck going to go for the Ice Beam, going to finally knock out the Hariyama, so doing Ryan a bit of a favour, I guess, getting rid of the Pokemon that wasn't doing anything. Celesteela going to Heavy Slam into that Araquanid. How much damage this do could be really important. Not very much at all. And Araquanid retaliating with a Liquidation into that Golduck. So that is going to get the knockout, even with that not very effective hit. And now 2v1, one of which is the Araquanid. So a lot to ask of Araquanid, but there seems to be a very slim way back.
We saw the Araquanid do a large amount of damage to the Celesteela in
But it
game
is
one.
the Xurkitree in the back, so let's just remember, that's a problem. That's a problem for Ryan.
I do not foresee this little spider being able to take out Xurkitree.
No, we saw just how much damage Xurkitree did, of course, with that blistering special attack. Going to be really troublesome, and it's going to be moving before the Araquanid, even without the assistance of its items. So that Encore, I think, pretty much killed the game dead for Ryan.
I think Ryan will have to be a little bit more careful Fake Outing in front of Golduck next time. Not all Golducks carry Encore, but this one did, and it was a very clutch move.
Yeah, it really nullified that Pokemon. When he only had 2 Pokemon on the field, of course, making one of them completely null and void is a big deal. So we are finally getting a game 3 here in our Top Cut streaming today. That's going to be nice and fun for us. And again, it's Ryan Mitchell, Mike Shaw, going to be 1 apiece as we move into game 3. That's kind of how these best of 3s work. If you're Mike, do you bring Rain again? Do you think that really worked for him, or do you think there was some errors on the other side?
I think Rain was good, but I don't think it was because of the Rain itself. I think the Encore from Golduck was clutch, and he had a good surprise factor with it. I don't know if he'll be able to get that surprise factor again. He might still be able to use Encore as a pressure tool, though. I don't think Marowak did enough in Game 1 to warrant bringing it in Game 3, but with some good positioning, Marowak could do work against this team.
I think if he plays Marowak again, it's got to be a little different to game 1, where he got caught switching it in and out, and they were very good reads from Ryan. But then, if he brings it again, I think just play it a little bit differently, maybe a little bit safer overall, and it could be a real asset to this team. So, be curious to see if Ryan mixes it, Mike's... No. The store is closing. Alas, a rundown of the teams after being rudely interrupted. We're going to have Ryan on the bottom. He's going to be running the Hariyama, Porygon 2, Araquanid, Drampa, Braviary and Mimikyu, with Michael's team of Pelipper, Golduck, Garchomp, Celesteela, Marowak and Xurkitree. So the lead's about to hit the field. We'll be interested to see if either player switches up from what won them their games, basically.
I don't think there's any onus on Ryan to actually change his team. It's done well in both games so far.
Yeah, we do see that Porygon 2 and the Drampa again. And a complete change from Michael, not something we've seen yet. It is going to be the Marowak and the Garchomp, so doesn't want to get hit with any electric type attacks.
No, we're seeing the special attack boost for Porygon 2, which means it directly threatens that Garchomp with Ice Beam. Marowak doesn't seem to be in a very great position against these two, but Garchomp can threaten the Drampa with a Dragon Claw.
No, that'd be really nice if it can. Of course, Garchomp just wants to put pressure on Drampa, but it also needs to stay safe because of the Ice Beam, and I don't think Marowak on its own able to do enough, so going to be interesting to see how these line up. No protects or switches coming out though. Garchomp just going for that easy Dragon Claw on the Drampa, which does not get knocked out. Porygon 2 retaliating immediately with the Ice Beam is going to get the knockout even with the Assault Vest on Mike's side of the field, which we saw in game 1. So Marowak going for the big Flare Blitz. It is going to be targeting down that Porygon 2, so Drampa is going to be free to move. Doing about half to the Porygon, pretty good. Taking the recall, Drampa going for the Draco Meteor, gonna connect with that Marowak, and it's gonna be doing significantly large, huge, some would say massive damage.
And Ryan perfectly happy to trade 1 for 2 there. It puts Mike in a position where he will not be able to switch his Pokemon for the remainder of the game, while Ryan will still have 1 in the back so he can freely switch.
Yeah, that Drampa clinging on was absolutely essential. Maybe something he's considered while training it. Not getting knocked out by the Dragon Claw, which is also something we don't see on every Garchomp now, with the presence of many other moves it needs for coverage. Now we're going to see Celesteela Xurkitree come in. We do have a good inkling that the Xurkitree is carrying the Choice Scarf, so it's going to have to lock into something that could be a little bit uncomfortable. Obviously, would be nice to hit both, but you can't look into Discharge.
And
so
there's no Encore to threaten against a Fake Out here, so I think Ryan is perfectly happy to Fake Out and Trick Room so that Xurkitree will not be doing anything for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think what he locks into here is going to be super essential. Of course, Porygon may be liable to get knocked out, probably not from the Celesteela unless it scores another critical hit with that Heavy Slam. That kind of bailed him out in the previous game. I think it is a little healthier than those previous times, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. The critical hit kept Porygon from putting up Trick Room again. That being said, critical hits happen 6.25% of the time, so
yeah.
there is a crit that is waiting.
Yeah, we do see the Fake Out onto the Xurkitree. The Xurkitree is going to flinch. Celesteela not protecting, going to try and get itself set up for the future with a Leech Seed onto the Hariyama. Porygon 2, though, entirely free to set up the Trick Room, and Xurkitree now not looking so peachy. It's not the bulkiest of Pokemon, and there's some pretty offensive things on the field.
Xurkitree does not want to take a Guts-boosted close combat from Hariyama.
No, we know it doesn't have the option to protect, so I feel like this turn it's easy for Ryan just to remove that threat from the field, and then just whittle down that Celesteela. Of course, Leech Seed is going to help, but Porygon 2 did some good damage with the Thunderbolt when it was at last facing it down one-on-one, so going to be interesting. Hariyama locking in the close combat into the Xurkitree, going to take the knockout there, so now 3v1, getting a crit back to avenge its Porygon friend from game 2. Dropping its defenses, I don't think it's going to matter. We are going to see Porygon 2 just throw out a Thunderbolt immediately into the Celesteela, going to take it down a little under half health, and Celesteela taking this time to set up a substitute, so that could be big. Of course, if Hariyama has something to knock out the substitute, then it's going to be in trouble. He can buy some time with Protect, but not that much.
I wager we'll probably see Hariyama Porygon double target Celesteela with close combat and Thunderbolt, try to break the sub and get a Thunderbolt out, but as soon as that Celesteela cannot protect itself with Substitute anymore, we will most likely see it fall.
It's going to be slow. Obviously, I think Michael's going to need a lot of protects here to get himself back into a healthy position. Is going to protect this turn, going to get another turn of Leftovers and Leech Seed. Not the fastest game, not the most fun for the spectators, but it is one way to try and get himself back into it. Hariyama's Close Combat goes into the Protect, and Porygon 2 Thunderbolt also goes into the Protect.
And now is just a slow, methodical protect, substitute, trying to wait for Celesteela to heal up and get healthy.
It's definitely important to see if the substitute will protect itself from a close combat. Hariyama does have the Guts boost though, so it's going to be doing some really large damage.
In the event that this close combat knocks out that substitute, Porygon 2 will take a knockout on Celesteela.
It should, and it will put it in a position where it can't substitute immediately the next turn. So I think this one is going to be up. It's the moment of truth. Guts boosted close combat. Does it do it? Yes or no? Yes, it does. That was the deciding factor in this game. Obviously, the moment of mystery, not so big there. We kind of had an inkling. Porygon 2 now free to Thunderbolt it, of course, is going to be enough for the knockout. So Ryan Mitchell will be winning the first mid-season showdown here in Florida, taking a very impressive, exciting, enjoyable, there's a lot of adjectives for it, but taking a nice victory over Mike Shaw in the finals.
And netting himself 50 CP.